Hello everyone, I'm so glad to see you again on my channel. Today, we will continue following the emotional story of the single mother Ly Hoai Ca and Officer Hùng. As you already know, after so many ups and downs, Hoai Ca and Hùng are now living under the same roof. Hùng, a man who dedicated his youth to protecting justice, has chosen to put aside his police uniform so he can wholeheartedly stay by Hoai Ca's side. He is planning to start a small business, hoping to find stability and build a complete home. However, just when life seemed to be turning a new page, an unexpected event occurs. After years apart, Hoai Ca's foster mother suddenly reappears and comes straight to her. She brings with her untold feelings and a complicated past that Hoai Ca thought she had buried long ago. Will this reunion bring warm reconciliation, or will it reopen old wounds in Hoai Ca's heart? And Hùng, as her only source of support, how will he face this new storm? Let's follow today's episode together to discover the surprising twists that await. After a long time of reflection, Hùng tried to find a new direction for himself. He knocked on the doors of old friends, asked for advice from former colleagues, and even reached out to connections he had rarely leaned on before. Some suggested he work as a security guard for a private company, others recommended trying an office job, and a few even proposed he become a service driver. But to Hùng, all of these jobs felt like temporary patches. None of them could truly meet his deeper needs. Every night, lying on his old wooden bed, Hùng would toss and turn until late. In the darkness, he could hear his own weary sighs. His gaze often lingered on a photograph of the house when it was still whole, the home he had poured his entire youth into building. To Hùng, it wasn't just a shelter from sun and rain, it was a symbol of his dream for a complete family, a place holding countless memories with his parents and his childhood. Losing that home felt like losing a part of his soul. Meanwhile, the debt kept growing. The collection calls came more relentlessly, like daggers piercing his mind. Sometimes, seeing Hoai Ca quietly worrying about him brought a sting to his eyes. He knew he couldn't keep drifting with odd jobs and meager wages. If he continued this way, not only would he never pay off the debt, but the dream of reclaiming his home would remain forever out of reach. In his despair, Hùng spent many days sitting in a small cafe at the end of the alley, sipping bland iced tea and thinking. He watched the market vendors, people who rose before dawn, worked until late at night, yet carried in their eyes a resilience, a belief that tomorrow would be better than today. In that very moment, Hùng suddenly saw a glimmer of a path. He decided to pursue trade. To him, trading was the shortest road to starting over. Though risky, it at least gave him the chance to earn a large sum of money in a short time. He told himself, if I just play it safe, I'll never reclaim that house. To get it back, I must be willing to take risks. That decision brought him both relief and anxiety. He knew stepping into business was not all roses. There would be losses, scams, even the possibility of losing everything. But for Hùng, there was no turning back. He needed money, he needed a home, and above all, he needed a new beginning to prove to Hoai Ca that he could be the pillar of their life together. That night, under the dim moonlight, Hùng sat quietly on the porch. The cicadas chirped endlessly, and the hot wind pressed down around him. He clenched his fists tightly and swore to himself, no matter how hard it gets, I will step onto this path of trade. For the house, for Hoai Ca, and for the future. After many sleepless nights of torment, Hùng finally decided to open his heart to Hoai Ca. Looking at her, his voice was slow but resolute. I've thought it through. If my superiors don't allow me to take a temporary leave, then I'll resign from the police force altogether. I can't keep carrying both this crushing debt and the stress of the job. I want to stay home. I want to try my hand at trade. Hearing this, Hoai Ca froze for a moment. Her eyes glimmered with unease. Hùng continued explaining, saying he already had a plan in mind. He would gather the little savings they had, buy fruit orchards from local farmers, then sell the produce at larger markets or transport it to other provinces to resell at a higher price. To him, fruit trading meant fast turnover, less risk, and the chance to make quick profit. He even spoke enthusiastically about selecting seasonal fruits in high demand to make the business run more smoothly. Yet the more she listened, the heavier Hoai Ca's heart became. She knew how much Hung had sacrificed to earn the right to wear that police uniform, the sweat, the effort, the youth he had poured into it. She remembered the stories of grueling training, endless night shifts, and the pride he felt when trusted by the people. And now, just for her, for their shared life, he was willing to give it all up, something that filled her with guilt. Hung, Hoai Ca's voice trembled, almost breaking. Do you know how many people out there dream of becoming a police officer like you, but could never achieve it in their lifetime? I understand you want to take care of me, to build our future, but to give up the career you've devoted so many years to. I can't help but feel such regret for you. As she spoke, Hoai Ca turned her face away, trying to hide her tearful eyes. She urged him to reconsider, at least to think carefully before making such a drastic decision. After all, being a police officer was not just a job, it was honor, an ideal, and a part of who Hung was. Hung fell silent. His hands clenched tightly, his eyes staring into the distance. He understood Hoai Ca's worries, but deep inside, the weight of debt and his burning desire to reclaim the lost home no longer allowed him to live peacefully on a modest salary. Both of them sank into silence, each lost in their own thoughts, leaving the small room filled with a tense, unspoken stillness. In the face of Hoai Ca's heartfelt pleas, Hung quietly sat down beside her. He took her fragile hand in his voice warm yet filled with determination. I understand how you feel. I know you don't want me to give up the police work, a job so many people dream of, a source of pride that I myself have been devoted to for years. But you have to understand, I'm cornered now. The debt keeps piling up, and I can't just live on a meager salary and spend my whole life trying to pay it off. Hung paused, his eyes tinged with sadness but unwavering. Besides, I don't want to be transferred away. If my superiors send me somewhere else, it means I'll have to leave you, leave this land, the place that still holds all my memories, the place where I long to reclaim our old home. I can't accept losing everything just to hold on to a title as a policeman. For me, being with you is what matters most. Hoai Ca stayed silent, her heart tightening. She understood Hung's struggles, yet she couldn't stop the wave of regret inside. Her eyes welled up, her voice choking. I know, but Hung, are you certain that trading will give you what you're hoping for? Leaving the police means cutting off the future you've worked so hard to build for so many years. I just fear, one day you'll regret it. Hung gently squeezed Hoai Ca's hand, offering a faint smile, his voice slow and soothing. I promise you, I won't make any rash decisions. I'll think it through, weigh everything carefully. But please, trust me, I'll choose the path that's right, not just for me, but for you, for us. Under the dim yellow light that spilled across the small room, the two sat in silence. On one side was Hoai Ca's worry and sorrow, on the other, Hung's resolve burdened by responsibility. No more words were needed, they simply leaned on each other, letting their hearts beat with heavy, yet hopeful rhythms for the future. That day, Hung decided to go alone into the orchards to survey prices. On the red dirt path leading into the groves, flanked by rows of old bamboo creaking in the wind, he walked slowly, lost in thought about his new plan. It had been a long time since Hung had felt this kind of excitement, not when chasing criminals, but now, standing at a crossroads of his life. After some conversations with local farmers, Hung learned that pomelos had suffered a poor harvest this year. Off-season rains and pests had reduced yields compared to previous years. This meant that the market supply would shrink, and when demand surged during the Lunar New Year festivities, prices would certainly rise. Looking at the still green pomelos glistening under the morning sun, Hung made a bold decision. He would buy an orchard now and place a deposit with the owner. That way, when the fruits ripened, he would have the rights to harvest and sell them. Buying early would not only secure a lower price, but also save him from the fierce competition once the harvest season arrived. Still, he knew the risks were real. Without careful watch, the pomelos could be stolen, or worse, natural disasters and pests could wipe out the entire crop. For this reason, Hung carefully negotiated with the orchard owner, insisting that the groves must be well cared for and guarded. Fortunately, the owner was an honest man, eager to build a long-term partnership, and agreed to safeguard the orchard for him. On his way back, Hung stopped by several other orchards to check the prices of longans and guavas. He figured that diversifying his sources would not only give him more trading options, but also help bring local produce to broader markets. In his mind, the dream of wealth was no longer just about reclaiming his old house. It was about building a sustainable business he could proudly share with Hoai Ca. As he walked along the village path, the breeze carried the faint fragrance of pomelos. Hung felt a surge of confidence within him. This time, he believed he had truly found his way forward. And he told himself, as long as I persevere, I'll stand firm again. I'll reclaim our home, and I'll give Hoai Ca the future she deserves. Since Hung came into her life, Hoai Ca could clearly feel the change in her world. In the past, every morning she woke up with emptiness inside, her fragile shoulders weighed down by the worries of a single mother. But now, Hung's presence was always beside her, warm and steady, like a true pillar of support. Each dawn, while the sky was still misty, Hung quietly rose from bed. He stepped softly so as not to wake Hoai Ca and Tony. He started tidying up their little home, from the kitchen corner to the front porch, then prepared water for mother and child to wash up. On some mornings, he rolled up his sleeves to cook a simple breakfast of eggs and hot porridge. On others, he ran to the market at the alley's entrance to buy rice rolls, sticky rice, or milk for Tony. He wanted the first thing Hoai Ca and her son saw upon waking to be a morning that felt complete and safe. More than once, Hoai Ca found herself quietly watching those moments. Her heart warmed with a sense of being cared for, a feeling she thought she had lost forever. Hung not only helped her with household chores, but he was also patient with Tony, playing with him, soothing him when he cried. To the little boy, Hung was like a real father, a man he could call by name and trust completely. At night, the three of them would curl up together on the small bed, Tony nestled between his parents, his tiny hands clutching Hung's, before burying his head into his mother's chest. Lying beside them, Hoai Ca gazed at the two most important men in her life, her heart swelling with indescribable happiness. In those simple moments, she felt her family was truly whole, as though the losses of the past were slowly being healed. Hung, too, couldn't hide his contented smile. He didn't need flowery words, just seeing Hoai Ca peaceful each morning, hearing Tony's carefree laughter, was enough to make his heart complete. The three of them, though not rich in possessions, were living in the warmth of a happiness that anyone would long for. Ever since Hung decided to step away from the police force and turn to trading, Hoai Ca also reminded herself that she must try harder. She knew Hung was carrying an immense burden, the debts, the dream of reclaiming their old home, and the responsibility of rebuilding a stable future. She couldn't just stand by and let him worry alone. Every morning, after taking care of Tony, Hoai Ca would carry her basket to the market. She began learning how to trade fruit, practicing how to pick out the freshest produce to resell. Tasks that might seem simple became meaningful in her hands, done with the patience of a woman accustomed to hardship. Rain or shine, she stood at her stall with quiet diligence, greeting every passerby with a warm smile. She knew the money she earned wasn't much, but at least it could ease part of Hung's burden, lightening the load on his shoulders. On rainy days, when her clothes were soaked and her hands numb with cold, just seeing Hung's encouraging smile upon returning home filled her with unexpected warmth. As for Hung, watching the woman beside him endure so bravely only deepened his love and respect for her. Sometimes he would hold her hand tightly, his voice catching. "You've suffered enough. I promise, once we get through this, I'll give you and Tony a life of comfort, free from worries." But Hoai Ca only smiled softly and shook her head. "As long as we're together, working side by side, that's already the greatest happiness for me." And so, in their small home, though life was far from abundant, it was filled with laughter. Simple meals, cozy evenings together, and even moments spent calculating their business plans, each became little pieces of a puzzle bound by love. The two of them had found in each other the missing half of their souls. They understood that happiness didn't lie in material wealth, but in unity, in sharing hardships and nurturing hope together. That morning, as Hoai Ca returned from the market, carrying a basket of fruit still fresh with its fragrance, she suddenly froze at the gate. A familiar figure stood there, slender, yet with eyes full of warmth and tenderness. Hoai Ca stopped short, her heart skipping a beat. "Mother," she whispered, her voice trembling. The woman turned around, and in that very moment, her eyes lit up. All the worries she had held inside for so long seemed to melt away. She rushed forward, wrapping Hoai Ca tightly in her arms, laughing and crying at once. "My daughter, at last I've finally found you again." In that embrace, Hoai Ca felt her nose sting with tears. It had been so long since she had experienced such closeness. Ever since the misfortune that tore them apart, she thought she might never see her foster mother again. But now, this unexpected reunion brought her a deep sense of peace. Her foster mother held her hand tightly, her voice choked yet gentle. "All this time, I've been so worried for you. Hung told me you were safe, but until I could see you with my own eyes, I couldn't rest easy. And now, seeing you like this, my heart is finally at ease." The two of them sat down on the porch, sharing stories and unspoken feelings long buried. Hoai Ca told her about the difficult days, about her struggle to rise again after all the hardships. Her foster mother listened quietly, wiping away tears now and then, before smiling softly to encourage her. "All I wish is for you to be happy, to be at peace. Now that Hung's mother has left, you and Hung can build a new life together. Let your heart rest, my child." Hearing those words, Hoai Ca could no longer hold back. She embraced her foster mother, hot tears streaming down her face. She felt a love boundless and unconditional, not of blood, yet just as deep as any mother and child. In that moment, her heart softened and her worries seemed to fade. The image of two women, a mother and a daughter, sitting side by side in the glow of the afternoon sun, sharing and leaning on each other, stood as proof that after every storm, love endures and happiness can still take root in hearts that know how to love and trust. And then, on that very morning, Hung suddenly received a phone call from his agency. The stern voice of his superior came through the receiver, ordering him to report immediately to discuss the leave of absence request he had submitted earlier. A heavy feeling welled up inside Hung. He knew this meeting would be decisive. Either his request would be approved, allowing him some time off to handle personal matters before eventually returning to service. Or, if rejected, he would be forced into a final choice. Either accept a transfer far away or give up the police uniform he had once considered a part of his very soul. On the way to headquarters, Hùng was lost in thought, his mind tangled in conflicting emotions. On one side was his career, the ideals he had devoted years to, the dream of countless others. On the other was Hoai Ca, the longing to reclaim his family home and a simple, peaceful life filled with love. No matter which path he chose, the losses would be profound. The atmosphere in his superior's office was tense like never before. Every reason, every inner struggle Hùng carried would now be weighed and judged. Would his commander show understanding and grant him more time, or would he be unyielding, pushing Hùng to the edge of an impossible decision? Hung's life now stood at a great crossroads. Would he return to the police uniform, a symbol of ideals and honor? Or would he resolutely step onto the path of trade, a new journey, fraught with risks, but full of hope, the hope of staying beside Hoai Ca and Tony? What will happen? Will his superior approve the leave of absence and preserve his chance to return to the force, or will everything come to an end, opening a brand new chapter for Hùng, a simple man, but one who loves with all his heart? Stay tuned for the next episodes to find out the outcome of this fateful decision.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người một câu chuyện tình yêu đầy ý nghĩa. Đó là câu chuyện tình yêu của mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng nha mọi người. Chồng ơi chồng, vợ muốn sự trợ giúp. Có con vợ Hùng mà vợ đang quay dở.
Đâu?
Nó ở trên chỗ giường á.
Đâu?
Không biết nó bay đi đâu rồi nhưng mà nó quanh đó. Thì nó bay vô phút. Thì hôm nay mình sẽ đưa đến với mọi người mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng phần tiếp theo. Mình hy vọng rằng phần này có thể đem lại nhiều ý nghĩa cho mọi người và hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ đón chờ những phần tiếp theo để có thể biết thêm được thông tin cụ thể cũng như là chi tiết video. Và hẹn gặp mọi người ở tập sau nha.